Let me set the stage for you. Imagine your young, prepubescent self scrolling through Netflix. You see the likes of Winx Club, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Pound Puppies, H2O, Lego Ninjago, and of course, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. And then you see a new show. You've never seen Happy Tree Friends before. And looks pretty good. And maybe you've heard a few tales from friends at school and decide to give it a shot. This was your first mistake. Trusting those elementary school students for show recommendations. Why did you do that? Why did you trust them? They don't look trustworthy. But after clicking it, you were met with endless amount of gore. The show is based around silly anthropomorphic little animals who live cute, friendly little normal lives until some sort of horrible, gory accident happens. Now, we all have our own experiences with the show. While this show didn't exactly traumatize me in any way, I definitely didn't enjoy the one episode I watched by accident. And I have personally kind of had a bad perception of the show ever since, up until very recently from doing research for this video. I kind of have a new respect for it. So in this video, I'm going to let you guys dip your little toes into the world of Happy Tree Friends, if only for a second, or however long this video is. Me and you, we're gonna sit down, explore an episode, and talk about some really interesting lore of Happy Tree Friends. So you guys ready to hang out and talk about some weird internet thing? I can't hear you. Before we begin though, I do want to let you know I'm not trying to tell you how to feel or anything like that. It's up to you to make your own opinions on the show, whether you really like it or really hate it and it makes you uncomfortable. Both are completely valid and I'm open to hearing everybody's thoughts and opinions. When I was younger, being stupid and small, I'm still kind of stupid and still kind of small, but you get it. My understanding of Happy Tree Friends was pretty skewed very negatively. I couldn't really wrap my head around why anyone would make a show so involved around gore and violence and disguise it as a kid's show. In my head at the time, it seemed kind of malicious. But I think it's time we give a little bit of background information about the creators and the show so we can have a better understanding. A lot of people worked on this project. I'm gonna have all their names on screen now because they deserve that recognition because,
You can't have a picture without every piece of the puzzle.
That was my impression of Mr. Goop. However, for this segment, I'm going to be focusing on two of the creators because I just was able to find a little bit more info on them specifically and why they created the show. These two people are, a drumroll please, Ken Navarro and Warren Gaff. As most things begin, Happy Tree Friends just started off as a stupid sketch on a small piece of scrap paper. The team at Mondo Media would come up with funny situations revolving around these characters just to make each other laugh at the office, where eventually these characters and silly ideas would actually be noticed and picked up by Mondo Media. In 1999, the team were given a chance to create a short for the show, and from there it just blew up, being released in the early 2000s. It became almost an instant hit. They mainly showed this online and at film festivals, and the premise of Happy Tree Friends is actually a lot more innocent than what I thought. The team were inspired by Sunday morning cartoons of the 80s, kind of like Looney Tunes, but the idea was, what would actually happen if an anvil dropped on a character's head? It's a very juvenile and simple premise that I'm sure some of us have thought of before. When we're watching an animated movie or cartoon and some sort of fantasy violence happen, and we just kind of sit there and think, actually, I think if a piano fell on that guy, he'd be dead. They wanted to keep that classic cartoon style while also showing the effects of these crazy events that would happen in shows like Tom and Jerry. The show is also categorized as splatter or black comedy. They did, however, have a few rules for the show. I'm gonna read them off now. No guns. Not that we're against it, it's just too easy. We'd rather be more creative and try and have Flippy kill someone with a flower. It's funnier and more unexpected. No overtly sexual situations. We want to keep the world innocent, which makes contrasting the violence even more shocking and hopefully funnier. In our minds, all Disco Bear wanted to do with the girls is kiss them. It's like they're all 5-year-olds. 5-year-olds, nothing too new or technologically advanced. Same as above, we want to keep the world stuck somewhere around the 50s to the 70s. An idealized golden age, if you will. That's why the tech in this world is very old. Chat, I actually don't know if I want to say this word on YouTube, so I'm going to put it here, but basically they're saying no like poop humor jokes kind of thing. And lastly, the deaths are mostly accidental, with the exception of Flippy. We found that it's funnier if their well-meaning intentions go horribly awry. And to answer your questions on why the show was made, well, Ken answers with that they were just bored and had nothing better to do with their time. show. Now, while this information didn't exactly change my enjoyment of the show, it's definitely really interesting to see their perspective. And it's also really relieving to know that the show was never meant to trick or harm children. It was just something stupid and fun that the whole team enjoyed, that they thought others might enjoy too. Definitely not my thing at all, but hey, at least they were bold enough to try something new. Now they have a wide array of colorful characters that I just don't have time to sit here and explain every single one to you, but basically, they're all these really cute, colorful, anthropomorphic animals. And the style is pretty simple. It kind of reminds me of Wow Wow Wubsy. Now, my friends, I think it's time we walk through one of these episodes so we can get the full picture. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be talking about a case that just never sat right with me. It keeps me up at night. Thinking about the effects that it had on the creatures involved is just absolutely heartbreaking. Today, we're going to be talking about the double whammy case. A little warning beforehand, it is pretty graphic, so if you are uncomfortable with this kind of stuff, please take care of yourself, my friends. I'm being kind of jokey here, but the gore is pretty intense. It involves eyeball stuff, so please be careful, take care of yourself, skip ahead if you need. Anyways, so let's start off by talking about the individual involved with today's case. And before I forget, I am going to let you know I'm starting off today's makeup tutorial by using the shade Cute and Marketable Animal Mascot. One dab is really all you need. Flippy is usually in uniform, proudly showing off his Army Sergeant insignia. It's not known if he's still in active duty or if he's a retired veteran. However, unfortunately, he does deal with a huge amount of PTSD because of his time in the military. The day starts off like so many others. Everyone just enjoying a really good time at the local fair. They have a plane circling ride in the area, and unfortunately, this triggers Flippy's PTSD. And now, sadly, it's time to get into the horrid events of today's case. Flippy hijacks a plane to, unfortunately, detach victim A's head before putting a grenade in the wound and exploding the entire plane. In that explosion, it propels Flippy onto another plane-riding vehicle, where again, victim B unfortunately meets their demise almost instantly, where Flippy then again hijacks another plane-riding cart, where another victim, victim C, has one of the most brutal demises so far, due to Flippy hitting them in the back of the head with a plane propeller, knocking their eyes out, them getting caught in the propeller of the hijacked plane, leading all of their organs to come out in a string. Ew. And this, unfortunately, leads to their demise. However, luckily Flippy was able to snap back from his episode and then could immediately seek help and go to therapy. But of course, my heart goes out to all the friends and family of those little happy tree friends who were involved. I hope their families are recovering well. Hopefully nothing horrible happens to me while I'm like this. So there's a really quick example of how the episodes work. Personally, the show is not for me in any way. Something that did bother me though, that I know it's fictional and I'm open to hearing all of your opinions. Maybe this is just a me thing because I'm a little sensitive, but with the character Flippy, it does feel very insensitive to people who suffer with PTSD. But I also do understand that the point of the cartoon is to be over the top and have dark humor. But for me personally, it does make me a little uncomfortable. But again, maybe that's just me. What do you guys think? And with that being said, I definitely don't want to censor the show in any way. You should be able to create dark media with darker topics if it's done within reason and with a certain amount of respect. So do not take this video as me calling out the show for anything. Like I said before, not for me. But whatever float your boat, dude. Whatever float your butter. Whatever floats your boat. That's what I was trying to say. But especially because the show has a lot of love and care put into it. I mean, the animation is pretty high quality. Regardless, that's how the episodes work if you've never seen them before. Now that we've all been traumatized, I think it's time for some fun facts. So here are a few fun facts that I learned about Happy Tree Friends that I thought were pretty interesting. For example, did you know that the Happy Tree Friends were featured in a Fall Out Boy music video? Fall Out Boy's 2007 music video for their song The Carpool Tunnel of Love was directed by Ken Navarro and stars the characters from the animated series. The band members also make a cameo as animated characters, and that's pretty cool. Happy Tree Friends also had a mobile game and another game called Happy Tree Friends False Alarm. It was developed by Stainless Games and Sega, and even a few more games after that. Happy Tree Friends also had a few spin-offs, so obviously the fandom and community for the show is really strong. I'm glad that indie animators, especially nowadays, are able to build this big community and profit off of their work. Another little fun fact about Happy Tree Friends is that the creators are really fond of fan art. They've even stated that people redesigning their characters in an anime style is one of their favorite things. And they've expressed that they want to do a whole episode in this anime style one day. But it's really nice to see creators who are so involved in their community. In a healthy way, mind you. Now I'm going to talk about the main controversy revolving around Happy Tree Friends. So it's pretty obvious, but the main concern with the show is, and I quote, "The series has drawn criticism due to the concern that children would be influenced by its violent content due to the series appearing as if it were made for children." Because, you know, I know at least a few of you have seen an episode or maybe enjoyed the show in your childhood. And let's be honest, it's no Bluey. But also, just because it's a cartoon doesn't mean it's for children. There's plenty of wonderful animated cartoons and anime series that are clearly targeted for adults. And it's up to the parents and distributing companies to do research on the shows before allowing kids to consume that content. But I will say, for Happy Tree Friends, I think a warning would be greatly appreciated. Because yes, it's not exactly their responsibility, but I think it would totally help the show from getting the kind of backlash that it does. Maybe a screen or something that pops up at the top like Netflix does, just letting people know, hey, this isn't for kids, it has violence, it has gore, be careful consuming this content. And I bring this up obviously not to bash the show at all, but because having children be exposed to this level of gore at that young age is just really not healthy. But you know, that's a bigger conversation. Happy Tree Friends is not the sole creator of why kids are so traumatized. And you know, the internet moving forward as a whole needs to get a little bit better at protecting kids. So I think just having some protective barriers to get through before consuming this content is way better than, you know, banning this stuff off the face of the earth. I think as the internet becomes more prominent in younger kids' lives, such as iPad kids or iPhone toddlers, especially with the surgence of AI cat gore videos targeted to kids and quote kids YouTube content that is just NSW kink stuff, I think it's important to just be aware. Anyways, that's enough yapping. I'm shutting up. I'm zipping them lips. But I think it's time I wrap everything up and we end this little internet wacky adventure. I think doing research on this show definitely helped me be a little bit more open-minded and accepting of it, but it's still not my cup of tea. I'm sorry. I just don't find this kind of stuff funny. But it's kind of interesting that it was like a universal experience for kids of the 2000s to have some sort of memory with the show. Speaking of which, this is actually collab with another creator. His video is a much more in-depth, complete lore of Happy Tree Friends, while mine is just a little toe dip. But here's some perspective from him on how his opinion changed of the show while doing his research.
Initially watching Happy Tree Friends as a kid, I was traumatized. It was one of my first introductions to gore. Rewatching it now, there are some funny moments, but for the most part, it's just cheap shock value. But over time, through research, I started to appreciate the show a lot more. Visually speaking, I love the designs of the characters. Cuddles is my favorite, by the way. I also want to highlight a few episodes that stuck out to me. The Fall Out Boy music video was phenomenal, and I really appreciate how we have Happy Tree Friends versions of the band members, and the fact that the music video, or irregular episode if you want to call it, is played in the back of every Fall Out Boy performance. I also like the Flippy spin-off where it took place during his time in the war. That one was a lot of fun. And the Dumb Ways to Die collab, that was definitely needed. I also want to talk about the mobile game Dead-Eye Derby. That one is a lot of fun to play. I should mention this because I'm the quote-unquote Infection AU guy, but Happy Tree Friends does have an Infection AU called Happy Tree Friends Amnesia, which funny enough does precede the initial My Little Pony Infection AUs. Honestly, I want to see where Happy Tree Friends goes in the future. Regardless of what you may think of this show now, its impact on both the animation industry and the internet as a whole cannot go unnoticed.
I'm interested to know your guys' stories and thoughts and opinions down below, like your experience with the show, or if this is your first time hearing or seeing about it. This was kind of just a short, silly video compared to my other videos, so I can hang out and chill with you guys for a bit. It's always nice to hang out with you guys in my little corner of the internet. I appreciate you. Please leave me some recommendations for what you would like to see me cover next, but that's all I have for you today. So, same time next week.